folks, we're going to do something a little bit different here. We're going to put this a little bit more in a bit of a podcast format. So I'm joined here with Ken Bacor, and he is the co-host of the show. And we also have Steve. Now, we can't identify Steve because Steve is involved in law enforcement. And this interview really came about because Steve is a member on one of our on our forum, and he contacted me and says, "Oh, let's talk Tesla sometime. Go out for a drink." And at that point is when I found out that he was involved in law enforcement, because the discussion ended up veering, as all things do, towards autonomous vehicles. And I thought, oh, we have to do something on the show, because he was bringing an aspect of autonomous cars that nobody's talked about. And this is really the law enforcement angle on it. Everybody's talking about insurance and safety and regulations, but the law enforcement thing really got me thinking, and I thought it would be really cool to have him on. So thanks for coming on the show, Steve.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys having me. Thanks.
No problem.
So, in our conversation, there was a lot of things that really came up, and one of them was like, give you an example. If somebody went out to a bar and they owned one of these Model 3s or Model S, and they had a little too much to drink, and what about the possibility of an autonomous car, say, taking you home instead of calling a cab? It's certainly feasible, but what's the law enforcement angle on something like this?
Yeah.
So I guess that all depends on the timeline that we're talking. So if that was to happen today, where you got in your Tesla Model S today, it doesn't have full autonomy yet.
Of course not.
Right. So if we're talking late next year, when they're talking about perhaps having it, and at that point you still need to be behind the wheel, if I understand properly. When they release it next year, very similar to autopilot today, where there has to be someone there monitoring, making sure that it works.
Yeah.
I think they'll even have level 5 by next year, in the same level 5 being that you still have to sit there. You still have to make sure that...
Actually, technically, level 5 is no driver in the vehicle. It's level 4 that you still have to be in the vehicle.
Right.
Level 5 is complete autonomy, nobody in the car.
So it's like the beer run that we talked about on our last show, where the truck driver, he actually sat behind.
Yeah, the truck driver's still there, though. What I'm saying is the car can drive itself.
Right.
It is level 5, but regulations state that you must sit there, because we're not allowing that yet.
Sitting, correct. Okay.
Yeah, so if we're at that point, then... You know what? I really I'll have to cut this.
That's okay.
I guess the point is where it's fully autonomous, where it's legal, where regulations say there can be a car driving on its own. In that instance, I think what might happen for a while is that no one can sit in the driver's seat. But I also think Tesla's probably got that worked out, where the pedals will be dead, the steering wheel will be dead. So at some point in the future, when Tesla... network gets going, then you should be able to sit in the driver's seat and nothing will do anything anyway.
Right.
I don't think that'll be an issue.
The longer vision, as Trevor was saying, is that you'll get into this vehicle that may or may not have a steering wheel, one of these collapsible, like you see on the movies, this kind of stuff, where you'll get in and say, take me to XYZ destination, and you'll sit there and read the paper.
Absolutely, and I think that's happening. And when that does happen, then you could be impaired all you want, because it's already been regulated. You can't control the thing.
We hope it is.
No problem. The big problem with care and control, as you said, is if you can control the vehicle, even from the passenger seat, and you're impaired or you're intoxicated over 80, then you still have control of that vehicle.
I see.
And that is just, you can't do that. It's just no good. You still have control. And that's a charge.
Where are we today then, from a Canadian perspective, or from your expertise? This is really in its infancy right now as far as the thought from a law enforcement perspective. I mean, obviously there's been talk and some conversations about it for a while. I mean, Trevor mentioned the insurance companies are already on board. There's some U.S. regulations that have started from a federal perspective, I think, going down to state. Where are we from a Canadian perspective in this? Is this kind of early thought process right now?
It's so early. Even for us, we're just really... like talking to you guys about it, getting this out there,
hoping that lead locally here, right?
Yeah, we'd like to think we are.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe there's some other people working on it that I don't know about it, but this all just came about with the excitement of autonomy and Tesla. I mean, I love Tesla and autonomy, so we thought what a great idea to start looking into this. And we have reached out to Tesla to try and get them to assist us in doing this, and they're very busy and they haven't been able to get back to us at this point. But LAPD has Teslas on the road as police vehicles, and they've just recently been upgraded with full police package, so computers and whatnot, sort of a full police car.
Yep.
So I think that they're doing some testing that we don't know about, and they're doing some neat things that maybe we're going to talk about today that we don't know about.
Their use, I think, is strictly, though, using the cars in either traffic enforcement or pursuit or just normal vehicles,
like everything else that Tesla does, they're probably taking that data in and working that data out as far as policing goes, and how can we adjust that, how can we adjust that. The big question with Tesla in patrolling is the fact that they need to be charged. Range anxiety comes up when you talk to fleet managers.
Well, I think this is largely going to be fixed with that snake thing that they've been talking about, because that has to come into play at least for later next year when they do that demonstration across the country trip.
Drive from
But not just that; it's the Tesla fleet is coming, and they need those autonomous vehicles that are driverless in a literal sense. No driver have to be able to charge somehow.
In that note, Steve, what's typically a range that an officer will do in a vehicle?
Well, this is the thing. So it's actually the amazing thing is actually the Tesla or a electric car is actually the perfect car for patrol in urban environments. So we do 100 to 200 kilometers a day.
Okay.
Well, that's
nothing.
Yeah.
So it's really a lot of your time is sitting there doing notes or just general patrol. It's not a lot of mileage. Now, OPP maybe.
Well, it's different.
Absolutely. Or state police or others.
But as far as urban policing goes, electric cars are just perfect. And I think eventually they're going to see that. But without anything tangible here at a reasonable price yet, everyone's a little afraid at this point. Yeah. Sorry, I really got off the impaired driving there. Really veered off the impaired driving.
Well, I remember our conversation because we had spoken about the impaired driving situation. You'd mentioned something about, now of course I'm not in the legal environment or in law enforcement, but you mentioned something about a person having keys on them, and that determines something. I forget what it was.
Care and control. So care and control. Care and control. Yeah. So if you're intoxicated, impaired, over 80. And you're sleeping in your car, but you have the keys on you,
or I thought it was if they're in the ignition.
That too. But if you have
the key,
if you can access the vehicle to start it, then you have care and control. So you don't want that.
So what if we did this? We know that the Teslas can also be started with a remote app on the phone and not necessarily require the key fob. How does that work? Is that still under the same thing? Like if you're too inebriated to even open your phone, or let's put it this way. Let's say in the autonomous vehicle that, well, I guess you're right. Without the keys, you can't do anything. So if you got in the car and you had no keys, no key fob, but my wife had sent the car to pick me up.
Now, if that's the case, then full autonomy's in, regulations are in, we don't need to worry about it. Because the steering wheel will be dead, the pedals will be dead.
I see.
That should already be worked out.
Okay.
In order for the regulations to say we can do that, Tesla has to say, well, we can do it safely with nobody in it. And if you're putting strangers in your car from the Tesla network, you would like to think that they can't take it either. So I'm just assuming that the pedals will be dead and the steering wheel will be dead.
So that ride sharing, whether you're sleeping in the car or actually sitting, it's the
and
same
like
concept,
you said, Ken, I truly believe that very soon in the near future, the steering wheel will have an option to disappear. I think there's even an option. Maybe that'll come on the Model 3. We'll see. Probably not.
Oh, not in the first version.
Probably not.
Yeah, exactly. So what are some of the concerns that you're looking to tackle at this point, that you're starting to bring up from a law enforcement perspective, that you're allowed to talk about, I guess?
Just to be clear, I'm not a traffic cop at all. But I think going through it and talking with my friends about it, I think probably the biggest issue would be actually the cars on the road with nobody in them and having people manipulate those cars by moving into their lane or pushing them around, and the Tesla will react to their car getting close. And then you're going to have teenagers having fun with them, pushing them around, and all of a sudden it becomes a game. And that's no good. But the easy way to solve that would be to add that into the stunting under the Highway Traffic Act and make it stunting is a major thing. Seize your car for 7 days, right? It's huge. So if you did that, if you made the punishment big enough, then I think just like stunting, you're still going to have it.
Mm-hmm.
You're still going to have people getting charged with it, but it'll be much less.
I see.
Yeah.
But okay, so on that same vein there, but how would police be able to react with autonomous vehicles on the road? Say, like for example, how would they get pulled over and deal with a lack of a shoulder or other physical limitations?
Right.
Like how would that work out?
That's a great question. I mean, these are things that are going to have to be dealt with. Will the Tesla realize that there's a police car behind it trying to pull it over? And when it does realize that, what does it do? Does it take the nearest shoulder? Does it wait till a safe spot? So these are things that are going to have to be worked out with Tesla, with all fully autonomous cars, but Tesla being the first ones there. They're going to have to work on that. And the bigger thing being as well, to change subject again, is these cars in the same sort of area, these cars delivering things, perhaps illegal things.
All right,
other use cases. Yeah.
Right. And these cars are bombing around with no one in them delivering items.
Right.
Perhaps legitimately, perhaps not.
Right.
But if you're on a case where you have this happening, what are the options to get that vehicle stopped?
I see.
What are the...
Some kind of disabler?
Yeah, or a Tesla hotline, or,
right.
because this is coming quickly. At some point, in several years, 5, 10 years, that'll all be worked out.
Of course.
But these are immediate things that need to be
these are different times.
Yes.
It's coming a lot sooner. Regulation's not ready for it.
So what I thought was maybe when you're getting a plate for your new Tesla, maybe at the MTO they can have a box that says, is your vehicle capable of full autonomy? And if you click yes, then you must provide contact information of some kind. And that would just make
VIN number,
something that they could contact you in case of emergency.
Okay.
So if the police run your plate, that information, we already get all the information back anyway. Right. It would just be another line that says the owner is and contact here.
I see.
Just an idea.
Right.
Obviously, something needs to be worked out, but I'm just trying to find the simplest ways of
some kind of autonomous vehicle registry.
It's going to have that.
You're right.
And possibly even licensing. I mean, they might even
do a special licensing type format.
Yeah.
So. Yeah,
everything's a cash grab. Everything's a cash grab.
Well, beyond that, beyond
my wife just had to take her car in that never gets driven in for an e-test.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it should be clean then.
Oh, it was.
Interesting.
So what about things like speed limits or special lanes? Would the cars be absolutely required to do the speed limit? Or
yeah, so I thought about this as well, and I think it's going to be very similar with the way it is right now, which is if you're driving your Tesla on autopilot, you can choose to make it speed. That's up to you.
Correct.
And if you get caught, that's on you. So I think in the same way, if it's in full autonomy mode and you're there in the driver's seat, then you can tell it to speed. But if the car is on its own, with nobody in it, fully autonomous, at this point,
it really should be the speed limit then.
I think there's no other option but just speed limit.
And I think the cameras pick up the signs through the auto.
Well, they do.
Absolutely. With GPS.
They do that today. My car does it today. It's not even a Tesla, but
Yeah. And a lot of the roads, I think, are already sort of in the maps as speed limits already.
They could be GPS tagged.
Right, exactly.
Sure.
Yeah. So I think there's no way, unless we go to, at some point in the near future, like an HOV lane for autonomous cars, where you can now do 120, or it has sort of an increased speed limit, because there is a lot of people concerned about that. Rightfully so. Nobody likes the guy in the slow lane, in the fast lane doing 100.
Yeah, holding things up for sure.
Yeah. So
we're not like the Germans that know how to get out of the left lane when you're not doing anything.
The States are amazing too. You know what? The States, they know how to drive.
Yeah.
You're not passing, you're in the right lane.
Yeah.
You're passing left lane, back in the right lane.
Right.
So, and again, I'm sure Tesla has that worked out too. I'm sure they're going to be very, very good with that. Good manners, I think. Let's hope.
Well, so far they've been pretty good about doing the right thing.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see. There was the other thing too, is that I think we talked maybe a little bit about this, is about the possibility of using some of the 8 cameras on board as like a dash cam type of function or whatever, or with like in the case of a serious accident, I mean, what was that document that we got from NHTSA in the U.S.? They were talking specifically about the requirement to be able to share data from autonomous vehicles for accident reconstruction,
investigation. Yeah.
So, in the case of the cameras, would they require a subpoena or anything like that to be able to get the footage out of the cameras? Let's say Tesla did allow you to use the cameras through some kind of software mechanism,
Right. We do
or whatever. We don't know at this point.
Yeah.
Would they be able to record that footage?
Right. If they did, then we would just write a production order in order to get that information.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. If they haven't, then we'd do that.
I see.
Yeah. It's not a big deal.
Like I run a dash cam in my car right now, and I certainly plan on moving it to the new car just as a supplement, pending any more information from Tesla. You know, whether Autopilot 2 will allow that. I don't know.
Yeah. And again, I'm not in the traffic unit. I never have been. So
fair enough.
you know, it's I've done my own.
So how did you start this phase of bringing some awareness from a law enforcement perspective? Is this because of just your interest in Tesla and
Absolutely.
EVs as a fan? From that perspective?
I'm just a sort of a techie kind of guy. I like up-to-date things, just like you guys.
Yeah.
I love Tesla from the beginning. I've loved Tesla. Elon Musk is an amazing, visionary. And the fact that he's moving so quickly, so far advanced, is just an amazing thing. And I just want to be a part of it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Has there been any discussion in your outfit because you're interested in this? Is it something that goes around your unit? Or?
It's just started. It's very, very fresh. I have made some communications with
some inquiries with Tesla.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll have to cut that. Yeah, we've I made some inquiries even with
to be nameless. That's okay.
Yeah, yeah. You know what?
Okay.
I think where I work is very advanced. They're not shy on money, and I think they're going to do the right thing eventually. It's just going to take a little bit of time as government does.
Are you in communication with other law enforcement agencies, both municipal, provincial, federal, in Canada, kind of looking to spearhead some sort of task force on investigating this as a whole? Because that would seem to be the direction, is let's tackle this issue as an entire law enforcement community and work together to build that into our policies.
That would be, I hear you for sure. That would be the goal eventually. And I think it's just still so early.
It's early.
It's so early without it being here, and nothing's tangible, and no one believes anything because it's not tangible yet. It's
Agreed.
Yeah. So once it's here and people believe it, then I think it'll be a big thing. So
right now, here, we need laws in place though before.
You're right, and this is the problem.
Chicken and egg.
This is the problem. So I have been in touch with LAPD to see what they're doing with their police cars. So we'll see where it goes from there.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's helpful, but certainly looking at least here in Canada, some of the other levels of government as far as reaching out, maybe provincially and federally to, whichever MPs or MPPs are in your areas as a starting point, because I think it needs to be driven from the top down as some sort of task force or investigative sense from a Canadian-wide perspective to get all the agencies involved and then work out some framework where they can be built into a policy structure.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then put down and then tweaked, versus the needs of the area that they are. If you're in the, northern Canada, there might be different needs than in the city of Toronto or wherever, a large municipality. So, hopefully you can get that going. And if we can help, maybe broker some communication, let us know.
Yeah, I think the biggest hurdle is the non-believers. Honestly, I think there's people that just don't believe this is coming.
I think it's still kind of science fiction. And,
like I think there's some people that just don't believe it.
But geez, when you watch some of those videos of what these cars are doing right now,
it's amazing.
Never mind the promotional stuff, but just coming, picking you up from home.
Well, Elon's been making a lot of noise about it. People, it's coming a lot sooner than people think. And people are like, yeah, sure, whatever.
Right.
It's real. It's happening.
And even just when we went out with John a few months ago in his Model X and just, driving down a city street for the demo that he was showing us, and, it stopped like a normal car. Like I was just really taken aback by how seamless it was. If I did not know that he wasn't driving, I would not know that. Kind of thing. So the sophistication, and this is still, what are we at, level 2-ish, level 3?
Well, yeah, we're technically level 2, really.
Yeah.
But the other stuff is coming so fast. I mean, a year and a half.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing too, is the technology will always precede legislation. And Elon's been talking about that. Look, we're going to be able to do this stuff within a year.
Right.
We can actually do it today, but we still have to deal with the edge cases. It's easy to do autonomous driving on the highways when you have less stuff to deal with. Yeah. Urban environments is tough because you've got kids, you've got pets, you've got all, it's, you know, there's much more density.
Yeah.
So this is why, and I kind of mentioned it in my last video, is why they're putting the hardware in the cars today and recording what's going on and checking for false positives and false negatives, so that they can refine the software to really deal with the edge cases, so that when they're ready to release it, and you know, they can go to legislation and say, look, here is empirical data showing how safe it is compared, so that you don't have to study it for another 10 years. It's we've done the work, we've done the hard work for you.
Right, exactly.
And I think some of that's already being driven in the U.S. through some of the state legislation.
Oh yeah, you can count on it that some of this stuff is happening. Yeah. But at least with Tesla, at least with Tesla's case, that they can put it on the table and say, look, you don't have to study it for 10 years. We've done the hard lifting for you. You know, we've
from the beginning they've been ready to go.
Yeah.
And to show that it's really a viable option.
Exactly.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So doing it the way Tesla all it does is it helps accelerate it for the rest of the industry too. You know, Volvo's announced that they're going to use the same system that Tesla's using, the Drive PX computer, but they're not going to put it in production until next year. Now that just proves that they're testing it too, but how much of that data are they going to be able to provide? We have no idea. We know what Tesla's going to be doing, but who knows what the other stuff does.
So for our Model 3 viewers and listeners out there, obviously we're still predicting that Tesla will be on track for delivery starting mid to late next year in the US, and then coming into Canada sometime in 2018, earlier, later, depends. Do we have any indication of what level of autonomy those cars will be coming off the line with at this point?
Well, technically the Drive PX2 is capable full level 5. That's why they're putting it into the vehicles.
Yeah.
It's, like I said, they're dealing with edge cases right now, which is why the cars are coming out right now, essentially with autopilot software deactivated. Like if you go buy a P100D right now, even though it comes with the new hardware, the autopilot stuff is not even turned on in the vehicle. Right. That's because they've largely switched over from the Mobileye system over to the new one, and they want to go kind of in baby steps. Now they have announced that they're going to be putting out an 8.1 software update within the next 3 weeks or so, and that will most likely bring Autopilot 2 equipped cars up to at least about the same level as Autopilot 1. After that, the changes will accelerate fairly quickly because you know, they have data and the software will be put out.
So knowing that, then I guess where I'm going with that question is that we may start seeing some level 5 capable cars as early as 2018. Is that a fair statement to say?
Well, the P1, like the cars coming off the line today with the hardware equipped are capable of full level 5. Okay. It's just the software's not ready yet.
Right.
So the hardware exists today to allow full level 5. So yes, Model 3 when it comes off the line, assuming it uses the same hardware, and that's what they've confirmed, will be capable of it. It's just the software has to be ready and worked on. But more importantly, the legislation.
Well, that's where I was going with that, is that I think because now you're saying that's a lot of people that just won't believe it till they see it. But as far as seeing it, it's here and coming a lot sooner, like a year or two.
Right. I think when he does that cross-country trip completely driverless, I think that'll be a big thing.
Yeah.
I think that'll really
wake people up.
That is here.
Yeah.
So hopefully for our listeners out there, wherever they live, be it Europe or North America or Asia Pac or other areas, your governments and different levels of law enforcement are tackling these issues, are talking about them, or at least working towards putting some sort of regulatory policing and policies in place to tackle level 5, because it's coming sooner than we think. Right?
Yeah, I think Tesla's going to have sort of a department. So they already have sort of a very small department for law enforcement. But they're going to need to grow that. Probably a lot.
Especially if they're encouraging fleet, as you're saying, more and more. Of course. You know, agencies are going to start looking at this because of the cost benefits as the economies of scale kick in, right, and the costs come
Tesla down. Is very much an up and up. They're not trying to hide anything. So as far as policing goes, I don't think there'll be any issues as long as the paperwork's done properly and there's no, is a proper
Well,
investigation.
it's still a learning process. So you can't expect this stuff to be figured out right off the top, because there's always the edge cases that make it worse. Witness all the accidents that have happened right now on autonomous cars, or not autonomous, but autopilot 1 version cars have experienced. And of course, the media makes it to be worse than it actually is.
Yeah.
So that's an unfortunate part of the process. But these types of things do end up kind of steering the company in different directions in a lot of ways, trying to rectify this or backpedal a little bit on some of the features, to prevent abuse. So there's definitely going to be some abuse.
There is. And
with this stuff.
We want to try and keep it as minimal for everybody, because if there's that much abuse, then they'll shut it down.
Well, that's the thing. Always take some hooligan to ruin it for the rest of us.
Exactly. That's right.
It's true. So as long as everyone keeps tabs on what's going on and they don't let things go out of control, I'll leave it at that.
Now, Trevor mentioned earlier on about insurance aspects and other aspects that that we're all looking at from different angles. Do you, or is there pressure from the insurance industry, or do they work with law enforcement to kind of, maybe in other aspects, but because we know that, again, the liability aspect of, level 5's another issue.
Yeah, that's.
Is there any partner cooperation there between insurance and law enforcement? There should be a hand in hand, right? Something,
other than the obvious, if the person is insured or not, if the slip is valid. Other than that, that I'm aware of, not that I'm aware.
So you're not aware of the insurance industry maybe driving some policy or some regulatory changes there too?
I'm not part of the insurance company industry. I don't know. But I thought I heard that Tesla may be doing their own insurance. You would think there's
a rumor floating around that they may get into that to handle kind of their spearheading efforts.
And that would I think that's a great idea. Great idea. I think it'll be cheap for Tesla owners, and I think they have access to the parts, and they know the safety of their car, and they have everything. They can download it. I think it's a great way to go if Tesla does their own. If not, it's going to be interesting.
Right. But I mean, it ties back though to, I know you're not a traffic cop, but for accident investigation, I mean, they've got to determine some sort of fault.
Well, that happens even now. That happens today.
Right.
So every car has a black box, and they'll get the information. It'll be the same for Tesla. That I'm not concerned about. It'll be exactly the same.
Again, if I'm in a level 5 and I'm not driving and somebody runs a light,
So that
kind of thing.
Agree. Sorry, I see where you're going. Yeah. So you would like to hope that either you can do a quick download, maybe a USB port. You call Tesla, talk to the law enforcement, and they could give it to you on USB, or they could even email it to you. Connect to the car, a quick.
Because there are insurance companies actually have monitoring gear in cars now.
That's right. And if you want to lower your rate, you can put that in your car. Absolutely.
So it monitors your speed and
So Tesla already does that, which makes sense for them to do their own insurance. I think it'd be great.
Yeah. Keeps everybody honest.
Absolutely.
Keeps everybody honest.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And as a Tesla investor, it's a great income too.
Right. Is there, where do you see some of the next steps going from where you are now to where you want to go from?
As far as
heading?
As far as autonomy.
As far as what you're trying to do.
Well, there's a few things that we need to do. Electrifying the police force in general, maybe not all of them, in the urban environments is a great idea. I think that's going to happen sooner than later, but it's going to take a little bit of time for cost-wise, and to explain that range anxiety is not what it seems. There's rules and regulations for police officers that you don't let your police car go less than a quarter tank. So you always have at least a quarter tank. Right? Sure. But these cars have big batteries. I'm expecting a large 250-mile range, as he stated, minimum. Right, minimum. And I think that's just perfect for an urban environment police car. The other, like I said, further down the line would be autonomous police cars, where you have police cars patrolling areas with nobody in them, and perhaps the video feed goes back to dispatch, or I'm not sure. These are discussions that need to be had, but it's a neat idea to think that you could have cars out there even doing traffic or minor policing, more of an observation type thing, and notifying other police cars in the area if there's something going on. More patrols for free, basically, is what it is. That's a neat idea, and I think that might come several years. Several years.
I think, as we talked about just before we started taping the conversation here, that we know that there are other aspects of that, like China using drones for traffic enforcement.
Right, which is
so
really
there are already
interesting.
some baby
Very, very
steps
interesting.
happening there.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
In that, so
That's really neat.
It definitely is
Yeah.
the next step, as
Yeah.
you're saying, that would be the logical step.
Yeah, probably the most pressing, the most inevitable today is the Tesla autonomy on the road today, and how do you deal with it today?
Mhm.
So that's the one that everyone's got to get their head around. Pulling these cars over with no one in them. How do you deal with that? Where do you get the information? How do you contact? How do you open the car? How do you tell the car it's okay to get going? We're done. Go on your way. You know, these are things.
And hopefully it pulled
move
over
along,
because it's
nothing
on the
to see
lights,
here.
right? Yeah, nothing.
How do you stop it from taking
That's
off
right.
on you? You know,
Yeah.
It's an interesting concept that they're really gonna. I'm hoping the LAPD are working on that, because obviously we don't have the ability to even experiment with it.
Right.
So it's a neat idea.
And how do you see your timeline in getting to some of those next steps? I mean, are you part of an internal official task force or group yet, or are you just kind of doing this on your time?
This is literally very, very fresh. We're just throwing ideas around. We want to move it to a point where we give it off to another group that are already looking at it. Like we have an environmental group that look after greening the region.
Yep.
And I think it really would fit right perfectly with them. I don't necessarily think it's a great idea for me to spearhead this thing.
Right.
I just think it's a great idea to get some information, pass it on to the people that can do that. And maybe when I'm no longer in the position I'm in, that maybe I can assist with it. But for now, I think just give all the information I can give and go from there.
Okay.
That's good.
Well, thanks, Steve, for
appreciate
talking with us today.
Really appreciate you coming on the show. It really helps out. I hope our viewership appreciates this a little bit. And as usual, if you have any comments or concerns, you can always reach us. Our email is m3ocshow@gmail.com. You can comment on the YouTube video down at the bottom if you'd like, and we'll go from there. So thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you next time.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you.
Take care.
Thanks.